himself into an example. He's a person who was arrested for running drugs from South America to the United States, I believe. And he was arrested and put in prison. And when he got there, he realized, my goodness, there are all of these people in prison who have HIV who are not being treated. So he utilized his Buddhist background that he had been studying along with, before he got involved with drugs. Now he used that Buddhist background to begin to inspire himself and others to be of benefit to others in the prison. Another person who is a great inspiration for me is a woman by the name of Joan Halifax, Rosie Joan Halifax, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. There is a Zen center there called Upaya, and they do many different types of training while they're there. The training that I attended was on Zen brain, but I want to highlight the training that she does with people who are working with those who are dying, families who are grieving, people who are in hospice. And she's written a number of books and does a number of presentations on being of benefit to those folks who are at the end stage of life. Also inspired by her is Frank, who is involved in the Zen Hospice projects in the Metta Institute in Berkeley and in San Francisco. I don't know if people are familiar that one of the first hospices in the United States was a Zen hospice. And it was highlighted in Bill Moyer's film called, I don't remember the name of the film, On Their Own, I think, that was about death and dying in America. And one of the first hospices was in San Francisco, ministered to by the Zen community. So the Zen Hospice program is there, and you can, if you have an interest in this, there are many trainings that they do that are really wonderful. Organization. So there are a number of other groups. There's a Buddhist Peace Fellowship, which is an international organization that is a catalyst for socially engaged Buddhism to help with progressive change and social change using peacefulness methods. And also involved with this group, they have an ecological side that's called the Ecological Buddhism. And this is a response to issues of global warming and just being careful with our resources. And as I said before, this is something because Maba is a rural Buddhist monastery, very involved in what we can do to help the Earth's resources. In the process of finishing a new building down at Maba that will be using geothermal to heat and cool it. So caring for the Earth, this is the only home that we have. It's a good idea for us to be aware of these kinds of things. Now, in the short term, it's good to be aware of what's happening with our climate. There are a lot of things that we see going on. Of course, in a couple of billion years, it won't matter because the Earth will be swallowed by the sun. But for the next few billion years, it will count how we take care of our planet. It's a good idea to realize that our resources are not limitless. One of my favorite movies, I don't know if any of you have seen this, is the movie Wall-E. If you've seen this movie, it's a wonderful movie. And it's all the undercurrent of the movie is how the people on the Earth had to leave because we didn't take good care of it. And nothing could grow there. So it's good to be aware of how we're using our resources, how much stuff we're throwing away, how we can recycle and reuse what we have. So there are a number of books that are available for people who want to learn more about Buddhism and socially engaged work. There's the books by Thich Nhat Hanh and others. And this is a very good book. It was written some years ago, The Path of Compassion. It has a number of different articles, including some articles about Thich Nhat Hanh's work and others. Fleet Maull's book about Dharma in Hell, about prison. Human's Encounters with Death. These are books, Death and Being with the Dying. It's an excellent book by Roshi Joan Halifax. There's also a person by the name of Joanna Macy. Maybe people have heard of her. She's also involved in using Buddhist principles and helping with a change in our society. So there are a number of books. So we might think to ourselves, well, what can I do? So one of the things that we can do is to contact one of the many Buddhist organizations in St. Louis or other places and see what we can do to be involved, how we can be of benefit to others. Where is there some need that it fits your interest? And if you're ready to be able to become engaged or not, there's one thing that you can do, one meditation practice that you can do that will help develop or cultivate this desire to be socially engaged. And this is the Buddhist practice called metta, loving kindness meditation. This is an excellent meditation practice that's done regardless of what tradition of Buddhism. This is practiced in Theravada Buddhism, Chan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. All practitioners of Buddhism practice loving kindness meditation. So how do we practice this meditation? Well, there are several different ways, but one of the best ways of doing this is in your sitting practice, in your daily sitting practice. If those of you have a daily practice or weekly practice, some people have a monthly practice. In your practice, you can visualize during your practice different people, and during that visualization you can send loving kindness through your mind to those different people. Now, whether or not those people are going to receive your loving kindness is not as important as cultivating it within yourself. Before you can mail fruit from Florida to different parts. We have some very nice oranges that we've grown in Florida. Before you can send them, first you have to plant the tree, the orange tree. You have to nurture the tree. You have to get the tree to grow. It's finally to maturity so that the flowers come out and then the fruit comes. So in the same way, we plant the seed of loving kindness in our own heart. And we nurture that seed, we cultivate it, and then this seed begins to grow. And as it begins to grow, then our energy to be able to offer loving kindness to others becomes greater and greater. So how do we do this? We practice it by first visualizing ourselves. And we can say to ourselves, there are many different things that you can say, but one of the things in meditation that's helpful to say is, may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. And when I do the practice, I usually recite these verses 3 times, just so that I really am trying to be at one with these verses within my own mind, so my mind begins to generate this loving kindness, first towards myself and then towards others. This is the teachings actually of Sharon Salzberg, for those of you who know Sharon. Next, you pick a person who is very dear to you, a dear loved one, and you say, may this dear loved one, whoever it is, may they be safe, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they live with ease. Next, we pick a dear friend, and we do the same. And then we pick a neutral person, someone who we don't know well. Maybe we see them once in a while at a store or something like that. We don't know what's going on with their life, but we picture them in our mind. And then we also wish them well as well, loving kindness. And then we picture in the mind, this is a little bit harder, a person who gives us trouble, an adversary, someone who has caused us or someone that we love to suffer. So we picture that person in our mind. If you don't have anybody personally like that, you can pick maybe a political figure that's doing harm to a great number of people. That would be okay. So you know that if this person had received enough loving kindness, they wouldn't be doing harm to anyone. So you wish them loving kindness as well. And then, because it's hard for me as a practitioner, even at this stage, it's hard for me to at first picture the whole world. I start by picturing just one group of people somewhere in the world that's having trouble. Lately, of course, people who are suffering in the Middle East, in Libya, anywhere that you know that there are people suffering, people with different diseases, etc. You can pick any of those and you can send loving kindness to them. And then, to the best of my ability, I also try to send this to the whole world. To all beings, not just limited to humans, but also to animals and insects, etc., to be more consciously aware of this. So, this attitude of cherishing life, to being kind to all beings, this is something that we want to encourage within our own life. It takes time to do this, so we spend time in our practice devoted to it. I recall one, I'll just end with one short story about my own practice of how it was that I had gone to a meditation retreat with a Tibetan teacher. And of course, you take, when you go to a retreat, you take the vows, the precepts not to kill or steal or any of those things. In this retreat, I needed to make sure that I had my wife's permission to go. It's her kindness that would allow me to go. So as a tribute to her, before I left, I went and I bought her some flowers. So when I came home from the retreat, I got home, my wife wasn't home at the time, and all throughout the kitchen, there were these huge horseflies. And I had just, of course, taken the vows not to do any killing. So I spent the next hour catching 9 horseflies and putting them outside, because I knew my wife would be very displeased if she came home and found lots of horseflies. So she came home, she didn't see the horseflies. So we're fine. So a few months later, I went to another retreat, and thanks to the love and care of my wife, I was allowed to go, and I again bought her some flowers. I come home from the retreat, horseflies all over the house. I'm thinking to myself, this is some kind of karma left over from a past life now, that I must have been, a horsefly or something, who knows. So I spent the next hour collecting the horseflies. And then my wife noticed something. She says, there are some very strange looking things in this plant that you bought me. And we looked carefully, and here were these pods where in the plants that I bought her were these horseflies. So now whenever I go to retreats, I make sure that when I buy her flowers, there aren't horsefly little seedlings there. Yes. So, if you're able to be of help and of benefit to others and join an organization or be involved, this is very beneficial. If you're not able to do that now because the conditions aren't right for you, you're too busy with other things, practice loving kindness meditation. This will prepare you for when you have your next opportunity, whether this life or in the next, to be of benefit to others. I thank you very much. Thank you to the Council for inviting me.